Hello and welcome to the second documentary on the objects that Indiana Jones held. This particular part of the documentaries will be on the fate of Atlantis and everything he held during his adventures there. If you like this channel and if you'd like to see more of these documentaries, please subscribe or send me a thumbs up at least. If you don't like it, thumbs down, don't listen to it, go away, doesn't matter. Anyway, as I said in the last documentary, I was gonna go through several of the objects that Indiana Jones held. These are the archaeological important objects, so not everything, so forget about the rotten sandwich or the mayonnaise gone bad in the fridge. That might not be in these documentaries. But anyway, the object in question this time, as you might have seen from the images, is the 3 stone discs that Indiana Jones constantly uses through the adventure to get to Atlantis, and then he uses them inside Atlantis to get through several problems. The circular discs are quite interesting because they're a mixture of metaphors and descriptions of Atlantis and objects found there. One of the most important ones, which is connected to the discs, is actually Plato's dialogue. This is because the discs might be, because it was never explained, a physical representation of the town of Atlantis. If someone goes through the dialogues of Plato, not the lost one was just made up for the game. The dialogues of Plato are freely available and very easy to read and understand, as Plato was very clear in his writing. The only issue when reading the dialogues of Plato is understanding if this was fiction or was reality, and hence the myth of Atlantis. But anyway, if we go through the description of the land of Atlantis in Plato's dialogues, this becomes quite clear that he had very precise measurements and understanding of how the town looked like. Here's a quote from the dialogues of Plato. It's the description of the land. So it's titled "How They Arranged the Land." First of all, they bridged over all the zones of the sea which surrounded an ancient metropolis, making a road to an and from the royal palace. So it's old and difficult to read anyway, but bear with me, just try to think about the measurements. And at the end, at the very beginning, they built a palace in the habitation of a god and their ancestors, which they continued to ornament in successive generations. So basically this was something built by God and they kept on maintaining it in the same way. Every king surpassing the one went before him to the utmost of his power until they made building a marvel to behold for a size of beauty. So all the buildings were big and beautiful. But what we're really interested is the shape of how the town was arranged in Atlantis. So here is, and the beginning from the sea they bored a canal of 300 feet in width and 100 feet in depth, a 50 stadia length which they carried through the outermost zones, making a passage from the sea up to this, which became a harbor, leaving an opening sufficient to enable the largest vessel to find ingress. So basically it was a series of canals in the entire town that allowed maritime travel and trade. Moreover, they divided at the bridges the zones of the lands which parted in the zones of the sea, leaving a room for a single trident pass out of the zone to another one. They covered over the channels so as to leave the underneath for the ships. So there were covered channels. And the banks were raised above in many areas. Then let's skip through the main part. So the island in which the palace was situated had a diameter of 5 stadia. All this including the zones of the bridges, which had 6 parts of the stadium in width and surrounded by stone wall on every side, placing towers and gates, bridges where the sea passed on. The stone which was used in the work they quarried was from underneath the center of the island and from underneath the zones on outer as well as the inner side. So it was made with different stones, all quarried in the island. So there must have been a lot of mining areas in this island. And there were three kinds of stones that they used: white, black, and red. So the outer lining, according to this, I'll just directly try to interpret the text, is that they had three areas. One was the white, one was the black, one was the red. And there were circular areas, concentrical. So the white, then first circle white, second circle black, third circle red, which was orichalcum. So it had quite a detailed description of the land and how it was positioned and how they built inside. And what the stones, I believe, represent is these three circles with the town of Atlantis in the middle. As you think about it, the last circle of the town, the last stone circle, has the town and the volcano. So basically it does represent the town temple at the top, and the volcanoes erupted and destroyed it according to the fate of Atlantis. So the dialogue of Plato, which is itself an object that Indiana Jones held, is a very important hint to what these three stones were. And the representations of the sun, the moon, all these other things instead, could possibly be from Mayan origin. Maybe they wanted to mix several different cultures to make the Atlantean culture very advanced. So the creators of the Fate of Atlantis wanted to mix the Plato's dialogues, the Mayan traditions of sun, moon, and the third one, which was quite interesting, is the jade discs from Asia, which are another very similar object, which could have been where the creators of the Fate of Atlantis took the stone discs information from and tried to recreate. So these bi discs, they're called bi discs, were a type of circular ancient Chinese jade artifact. The earliest bi were produced in the Neolithic period, particularly by the Liangzhu culture, 3400 to 2250 BC. Later examples date mainly from the Shang, the Zhou, and the Han dynasties, and they were also made of glass. But if you go through the images that are on the video of the jade discs, you might be surprised about how much these discs show details that are represented also on the stone discs held by Indiana Jones. All of these had very intricate decorations and literally just looked like those discs. But because the culture and the history of these was very far from Atlantis, the creators had to mix it up a bit with the myth of Atlantis and the three discs one on top of the other. I mean, normally the stone discs would be unique, one by itself and decorative in use, so you wouldn't have each one of them on top of the other. So that would be probably the representation of the three circular areas of Atlantis mixed with the jade disc decorations. I hope this gives you a bit of an idea of how Atlantis might have, the fate of Atlantis might have been created at the beginning, and how the discs, the first focal point of the game, became as they are in the game. I will start with another little object next time, probably the orichalcum. Orichalcum is very crucial to the Atlantean myth, and it has quite an interesting story behind, and Indiana Jones held quite a lot of those beads in his hands. So bear with me, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.